The NHL rumors are swirling, linking Juuse Saros to Edmonton. On today's show, we'll tell you why a good idea on paper may not make much sense at all on the ice.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Want to kick off our Wednesday show, of course, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders community and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio, and friends, I have a Thelma to my Hockey Louise.
You do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
Well, Emma and I are going back to our 8th grade years because we're going to be talking about rumors. The Nashville Predators have yet again struggled early in the season, and a surprisingly tough start for the Edmonton Oilers has the rumor mill working overtime. And the solution that's being floated out into the hockeyverse is a deal where Juuse Saros ends up in Edmonton. On today's show, we are going to explain why this narrative is gaining traction. We're going to talk through the challenges of getting anything remotely reasonable done. Plus, we're going to tell you why we think moving Saros, even if the Preds kick off a rebuild, may not be the best idea for this franchise. Before we dive into all of that, want to let you know today's episode's brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Emma, I feel like I need to kick off today's episode with a public apology to our mothers because yesterday on the show I said turd. And I just want our mothers to know that they raised us better than that. So sorry to our moms for saying turd.
I mean, but also as a testament to the fact that they raised us better, I mean, we could have said worse.
We could have said worse, yes, but Minka was staring at us, and so
it's true.
We pivoted to turd, but just want everybody to know that we're very polite and well-raised women. Thank you to our mothers. Pivoting away from Anne saying turd 6 times. We want to talk about some of the rumors going around. And friends, this is what's real. It ain't going well for the Nashville Predators. And so the conversations have to take place. What is next for this franchise? And a bigger conversation is taking place when it comes to what is possible with particular players on this roster. And of course, we're going to have conversations about Steven Stamkos, Ryan O'Reilly, some of these other veterans on the roster that we suspect may not be Nashville Predators next season. But today we're going to focus on one particular juicy tidbit cycling around in the hockeyverse and talk about this rumor of Edmonton being interested in signing Juuse Saros. And Emma, I want to kick this off because I think it's important, and we've talked about this previously on the podcast, but I think it's important to reiterate, especially today. There is a huge difference between speculation and reporting. And this particular topic has a lot of speculation around it, a lot of conversation, but I don't know that anybody's actually reporting about this.
No, and I mean, it seems like we have to say it all the time. I'm dealing with it a lot in the baseball world right now. It is the off season, the hot stove season, as they call it in baseball. And it is where every time while we're waiting for actual news, actual reports to come out, talking heads will just say, well, this team needs a right-handed pitcher. This guy is a right-handed pitcher. And like, that's it. That's the extent of it. And so that's kind of what this thing is with Juuse Saros. And, you know, you hear, well, Edmonton's got a goalie problem. Juuse Saros is a good goalie. Eh?
Yeah.
That's where the conversation has started, basically. There is no reputable source reporting anything about a link between the two. I mean, if there is, it could be that Edmonton has inquired about Juuse Saros. Listen, 2 years ago, before he signed that extension, every team in need of a goaltender was inquiring about Juuse Saros. I mean, of course they would. So
Mhm.
that's not really context matters here.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think you put it perfectly when you're like, eh? That is speculating. That is saying, here is a problem. Hey, here could be a solution. And so I think we need to be careful to say right now we're in the hey phase of Juuse Saros Edmonton Oilers. But you touched on something that I think is really important. And that's the fact that I get the logic behind the discussion because you have this Edmonton Oilers team. They've been to the Stanley Cup finals 2 years in a row. And I think it's easy to say from standing back and looking at it, you know what? If they just had a good goaltender, they could win the Stanley Cup. Now, you can dig into the jingweeds on that too and find out that maybe it's not as simple as that. But I understand why, looking at the scenario, people would say, you know what the Edmonton Oilers need? They need a different goaltender. Of course, their starter, Stuart Skinner, has played 12 games so far this season. He's got 5 wins. He's got a shutout, 2.91 goals against average, and 884 save percentage. But the thing about Stuart Skinner that tends to stick in the craw for a lot of Oilers fans is that they feel like he is inconsistent. When he's good, he's very good. But when he's bad, he's naughty, which is a nursery rhyme. But you know what I'm saying. And I think that is the main gripe with Stuart Skinner for Edmonton fans.
Yeah, and I think that again, I think it's important to say that you can dig into that even further and say having a good goaltender is also not going to necessarily guarantee them a Stanley Cup win. Again, it's nothing is a guarantee in this league.
Yes.
And so I think that would they like better goaltending? Of course they would. But it's also something that I think, you just see that kind of comes back a lot of times. The blame falls on goaltending because, well, hey, this is a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and if they can't get a good goalie, well, then that must be the reason that they're not winning. And again, I'm sure it is part of it, yes, but a good goaltender is not going to guarantee them anything. Look at the Winnipeg Jets and Connor Hellebuck. So I'm
Bless
just
Connor Hellebuck.
saying, I think that even if the logic is sound, the thought process is sound, it's not a guarantee of anything.
Right. And I think people feel like, hey, the missing piece is this. We're going to add the missing piece and we're going to get there. And hockey, they call the Stanley Cup the hardest trophy to win in sports because it is. It is so hard to win this. Of course, Juuse Saros gets roped into this scenario because of where Nashville is at. Nashville is nowhere near being a cup contender, friends. I know that's not a shocking revelation to anybody. And it looks really, at this point, far more likely that Nashville is going to take several steps back before they ever get some steps forward. And so here they have Juuse Saros, who is a little bit older, who may miss his window for competition, for contention in his career. Of course, Saros, we know, the rumor is he's a slow starter. Not this year, friends. Now, I will say this, his statistics went down. It's a nice way to went down after the little Rangers debacle. He finished that game after 2 periods with a 583 save percentage, 5 goals against. So that has really done a number on his season statistics. But what makes Saros is so appealing to Edmonton is like he steals games. So you don't have to have the best defense necessarily, because we've seen him steal games in front of not the best defense. This is a guy who's not on a competitive team right now. And I think most importantly, his trajectory lines up with a team that is in win now mode. So the logic is there. We need A. Here is A over here. Put A and A together and voila, A. Huh?
Yeah. That would be, since Edmonton, Canadian team.
Eh? Huh?
That's, yeah, I think that a lot of it is like logic. There is logic to the
Mhm.
argument.
Mhm.
I get it. I'm not saying this is ridiculous. Who would come up with that idea? I'm like, no, it makes sense. But as we're going to talk about in a moment, there is so much nuance to this and so many reasons why this would not make sense or
Right.
work.
While this, and it isn't an intriguing idea on paper, but you're right, Emma. There are some hitches in this giddy up. Coming up, we are going to talk about what those are, what would stand in the way of an actual deal happening between the Edmonton Oilers and UC Saros, starting with one thing that it makes it a total non starter. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Drip Drop. Hydration is health, especially when it comes to things like focus, energy, mood, even your skin. That's why you need to try Drip Drop. It is doctor-developed hydration that keeps you running at full power no matter what your day looks like. Drip Drop is not your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I personally love the Juicy Mix Bag. It is so easy to grab a packet and go. It's kind of become a little bit of a secret weapon for staying sharp and energized throughout those long hockey days. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. So go to dripdrop.com and use our promo code locked on NHL. Again, that is dripdrop.com, promo code locked on NHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their very best with Drip Drop. All right, Emma, talking about the juicy little tidbit swirling around the study hall. UC Saros, the Edmonton Oilers. Are they dating? Are they going to homecoming together? Well, here's the problem. And we just got to start with this. UC Saros currently has a no move clause. So what that means is that Barry Trotz could work some, or whoever could work some like, woo, GM magic, and UC Saros could walk in that room and go, no. And it's done. It's done. So then it leads you into the conversation. Would UC Saros want to go to a contending team, Emma? I mean, we haven't come out and asked him because it's a little rude. But do you think Saros would want to go to, would he be interested in a move right now, do you think?
I mean, these guys, all they want to do is win, right? So they're
Mhm.
not, no one in their right mind is going to be like, no, I don't want to play for a good team. Like, of course, it's not as simple as that. Like, if that's all it was, then we'd be having a different conversation.
Mhm.
But this is year one of an 8-year extension. I would think that UC Saros. Now, listen, for those of us, we understand it feels like 84 years because we
Mhm.
went through last year. We've gone through the first little bit of this year. So I get it feels long. It feels hard. It is hard. It has
Yeah.
not been fun. I get it. However, in the grand scheme of things, it hasn't been that long. It hasn't been that long. I know no one wants to hear that, but I don't think if you're UC Saros, because yes, the Predators made a commitment to him by
Mhm.
committing money and term to him, but he also made a commitment back to the team. Said, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm established. I'm settled. I want to help this team win. So you don't make a commitment like that and then immediately 15 games into year one be like, nah, actually, I want to win right now. Thank you. Now,
Psych.
if it was like a 2 or 3 year deal, maybe, but that's not what this is. And it's the same thing where Nashville is not going to sign a player to an 8-year deal and then immediately, like partway through year one, be like, well, actually, we got to get rid of this guy right now. And now, again, there are some guys who are perhaps on 4-year deals with $8 million salaries who they might be trying to move right now. But
Mhm.
I think your goaltender who you have locked in at, by the way, an incredibly team-friendly price for considering that the salary cap is going up and the going rate for good goaltending is much higher than what the Predators are paying Juuse Saros. So again, it doesn't make sense for either side to give up on the other at this point in in the contract. But also, like you said, he's got a no move clause. He is not going anywhere unless he wants to. And of course, we see players like waive no move clauses all the time, but it's
sure.
I'll only go here. Listen, if I'm Juuse Saros, and again, I have not discussed this with him, but if I was Juuse Saros, I'll tell you where I would not want to go. In terms of a high pressure environment, going from
100%.
Nashville is a walk in the freaking park
Gosh, yes.
compared to a Canadian market like Edmonton. I
Yeah.
mean, players don't want that, unless he's getting a dramatic pay raise as a result, or there's something in it for him. I'm sorry, but like the fact that team is a little closer to contention, a lot closer to contention than Nashville is right now, that's not going to be enough to make him be like, "Ooh, okay." No.
Yeah. And to go to Edmonton as a goaltender, if they go out and they get any goaltender, you have to know as that person, you are walking into this is not critical of the fan base. This is not critical, but you're walking into a bit of a viper's nest in the sense that their eggs are in that basket. Like, we feel like this is what we have to have. And so if you're going to go to Edmonton and be the goaltender, you got to be the guy. Like, you got to be the guy. And I'm not saying Juuse Saros can't be that guy. I'm not saying Juuse Saros doesn't want to be that guy, but I think you make a great point. He signed a long-term contract, and that tells you something about where his mind is at when he looks at the future, as compared to Connor McDavid, who didn't sign a long-term contract. And that also communicates something very specific about his feelings about the future with that franchise. And so again, he can move. He could be like, yeah, nope, going. He can move that, he can waive the no move clause, but you have to take into consideration if he would. And if he won't, he won't. The other big problem, and I know it's indelicate, but let's talk about money. Okay. Edmonton right now has so little wiggle room when it comes to the salary cap. So little wiggle room. And you are right. Juuse Saros is a steal. He is going to look like even more of a bargain 2, 3, 4 seasons from now at a 7.74 AAV. But if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. My husband and I were talking about a car that was for sale, and we were like, oh, it'd be so great to get that car. But if you don't have the cash on hand right now to spend it, if you don't have the disposable income, you don't got the money. You don't have the money. You don't have the money. And for Edmonton to free up the money, that becomes a whole project to free up the money to bring in even a good contract, like a $7.74 million goaltending contract. If the money's not there, the money's not there. It's math. We don't like to do it here, but the math is not mathin'.
Yeah, that's math that even I am comfortable doing. It's just, it's not there. It's not working. Plus, we have to talk about, can we just discuss that, it's not just a please can I have from Edmonton. They're not just going to say, give us your goalie, and then they give it. It would have to be a trade. All right. Now let's talk about it. What does Edmonton have that they would make available in a trade that Nashville would want? Let's think about it. All their big name players. I mean, those guys, no, off limits. We're
Never
not
happen.
getting Draisaitl. We're not getting McDavid. Okay, let's just get rid of that. We're not getting Evan Bouchard. I also don't think you should want Evan Bouchard if you're Nashville. You need better defense, and he is not that. He's very good on offense, but
yeah.
Anyway,
we have Justin Barron for that.
Yeah, we have Justin Barron, and he's a lot cheaper.
Mhm.
So now you need to look at what does Edmonton have that they could realistically part with, unless they're giving us their goalie, which I don't think so. I don't think we need Stuart Skinner or Calvin Pickard. No disrespect to them, but I don't think
Mhm.
we need them in Nashville. Also, look at where Nashville is right now. They're rebuilding, or they should be headed toward a
Yep.
rebuild, retooling with younger players. The last good, like, top prospect that Edmonton had, Nashville got him.
We
Nashville
took
got
him
him.
already. We
His
took him.
name is Reed Schaefer, and Nashville got him in the Matias Ekholm trade. That already happened. The problem is Edmonton does not have, they have put all of their eggs in the win now basket. Their farm system is
Good.
gutted. It is not good.
Not
And
good.
again, that's not saying that that spells death for their franchise, but I'm just saying that they don't have anything that would be of interest to Nashville to the level that they would even consider, that they would even pick up the phone if they call asking about UC Saros. Because
Correct.
again, the last good prospect they had, Nashville already took him.
We
So
got him.
it doesn't make any sense. Like, again, people need to think this through. What would
Mhm.
Edmonton even have in a trade? Like, what would they have to make available? Nothing that would be of interest to Nashville.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. They also don't really have any draft picks, like, honestly.
No.
And no one
No.
is giving up their first round picks for next year. You know why? Because
Mhm.
it's the Gavin McKenna year. And right now, as long as you have a first round pick, you have a shot at landing
Ask the
Gavin McKenna.
Islanders. Yep. Ask the
Yeah.
Islanders how that works.
So no one's given up their first round pick. And again, even if you did, we've learned that being a lottery team, it doesn't matter where you finish in the standings, you are not guaranteed the number one overall pick.
Mhm.
Nashville could finish the worst. Anyway, I'm going down a tangent here, but the point is that there's so much more nuance to this. It's not
Mhm.
just oh, you can have UC Saros. Well, no, like, there is nothing that Edmonton has that is of even remotely close to the same level of value as UC Saros would be to the
Yes.
Oilers.
And where the Predators are inevitably probably heading, what Barry Trotz is going to want in any deal that he does anywhere with anyone is a prospect or a pick. He's going to want a young player. Currently, Edmonton is the 8th oldest team in the entire NHL. Edmonton also, as you mentioned, not a lot of depth in the prospect pool. ESPN just came out with their team rankings for prospect pool depth. Edmonton ranked 29th. Friends, we already stole Reed Schaefer. He's already here. We got him. We already picked it clean. So it's very difficult to put together or to imagine a scenario in which a deal benefits Nashville. Coming up, talking about what benefits Nashville. We got to be honest, it looks like there's going to be some sort of a Predators pivot in the near future. We're going to tell you why we think it may not be a horrible idea to hang on to UC Saros. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to those fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game that much more exciting, especially when it's your team making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to fanduel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Emma, just the general vibes right now in Nashville are that something has to change. And I think one of the options that is very important to take a serious look at, regardless of who makes these calls, is that you need to address this roster. And part of that is just inevitably going to be you're going to need to move out some veterans to make room for some young people. And you're really going to need to kick off something with some younger players. What that does is, of course, push Nashville's window for contention back, which a lot of people then say Juuse Saros is not going to be around for that contention window. We should have kept Yaroslav Askarov. P.S. He didn't want to be here. Second of all, people are saying then Juuse Saros, who is one of the most valuable players and who a lot of teams would like to get their hands on, he needs to be a piece that we move. Do you agree that the best thing for the Nashville Predators at this time for the franchise is to get rid of Juuse Saros?
Well, if you're watching this video and you couldn't tell by my eyes rolling back into my head, no, I do not think that's the best thing. I think they did like a full 180 into the back of my head and then complete. Listen, the fact that this keeps coming up, the Askarov trade keeps coming up. We should have kept him, made him a 1B. Yaroslav Askarov had no interest in being a 1B. He had no interest in that. And so keeping him around, keeping him as the backup was not something that he wanted. People are saying, well, he only wanted to be traded because the Predators went out and they signed Scott Wedgwood. No, he demanded the trade as soon as they extended Saros. That was the thing. He wanted to be the guy. He wasn't going to be the guy in Nashville. And guess what? He's now the guy in San Jose. It's not going too well for him so far. So just saying, again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything for his future. I'm just saying you can't look at these two goalies right now and say Nashville picked the wrong
Nashville
guy.
made the wrong. Yeah. They, oh man, did they play that one wrong?
Yeah, no. And I think that people say, oh, they traded him for peanuts. They traded him for nothing. No, they didn't. They got a number 1 pick. They got a draft pick and they got another AHL goalie. So again, goalie prospects don't usually get traded that often, not of that caliber anyway. So the haul that Nashville got, especially considering the timing of the deal, actually pretty darn good. So that's a separate thing. But the fact that this keeps coming up, well, if Nashville was going to do the full rebuild, then they should have traded Saros. So you should trade him now. No, just no. I think if you were going to do the full rebuild and you had decided that back, 2 years ago, then maybe it would have made sense. You could have traded Saros, but the problem is you had to trade Saros. It had to be a mid-season trade at that point. Once they were at that sort of juncture, it would have been a mid-season trade. You're not going to get as big of a haul for a mid-season trade for a goaltender. Just not going to happen. And again, there was no reason to believe that they would find themselves in this situation. Now, I agree. I think, a lot of people are saying that Nashville made a mistake by picking Saros over Askarov. I would argue, and in fact, I have argued, that the mistake was not trading Askarov. The mistake was drafting him in the first place.
A lot of people go back to that. Yeah.
His timeline did not line up with Juuse Saros. It doesn't line up well. And so I think now by keeping Juuse Saros and you think about the timeline, well, he's not going to be around for this contention window. Maybe he's not going to be around as your starting goaltender for this contention window. That doesn't mean he's not going to be around. We've seen this team do this goalie handoff thing successfully before, from Pekka to Saros. And again, I think that you've got Jack Ivankovic in your pipeline. I
Yeah.
think that he's a really exciting prospect to watch. So again, you have a younger prospect whose timeline works. It fits a lot better with where Saros is at right now. So let Saros continue to steal games for this team right now. I don't see how that's going to be detrimental to the team whatsoever. If he steals you a few games,
yeah,
great.
he's not going to steal you so many that you suddenly are in the mushy middle if you're in the middle of a rebuild. Like, he is
No.
fantastic, but he's one man, y'all.
Yeah.
He is one man.
That's not going to happen. And I think that's what people are scared of. No, we have to fully tank, fully tear it down, be bad at every position. Friends, I don't think you're ready for that. I don't think you're
We're not ready. Nobody's ready.
Yes. Let me
You're not
just say
ready.
that. I
Not
certainly am not ready for that.
Yeah.
Again, a rebuild is going to be hard enough. People are already mad at Barry Trotz because, he set the franchise back half a decade. Maybe so, but if you're mad about that, then I don't think you're ready for this rebuild that you supposedly want. So
Mhm.
I'm just saying, I think that it's a lot more than people realize. And tearing it down, rebuilding does not mean rebuilding at every single position on the
Yes.
ice. And I think actually Juuse Saros is a fantastic piece to have in place. I think it's going to be nothing but beneficial to this team.
Mhm. Yeah. I agree with you, and I understand the appeal. I get the logic of Saros is valuable, trade him while he's valuable. I get the logic of that. And honestly, I'll say this: Barry Trotz, or whoever is the GM, I don't know, Barry Trotz has to pick up the phone he has to pick up the phone. If you're really going to do what probably needs done, you got to take every damn phone call. But you don't trade Juuse Saros for nothing. You only trade Juuse Saros for things that are going to help you in this future. And that's going to be picks. That's going to be high-end prospects. The teams that are going to be calling for Juuse Saros are going to be in win now mode. And what that generally means is they are not going to have a ton of high picks. They are probably not a team that has drafted high and has some really sneaky high-end center talent that we're just going to steal. So while it makes sense, and I get the logic of it, the logistics may not work out well. And while I understand people saying, oh my gosh, we're going to pay him $7.74 million and we're not even going to be a contending team, I think you make a great point. You don't have to suck at everything to rebuild. You don't. Also, let me amen you on the I can never say his name, Ivankovic. Jack I. This kid has a lot of promise. Now, he is 18 years old. We're talking Brady Martin's partner in crime, the Thelma to Martin's Louise here. So he is young, but he is playing at the University of Michigan. Y'all, he looks real good at the NCAA level. And if somebody is playing really well at the NCAA level, that is a good clue for what is potential could be in the NHL. Again, it's so hard. There's such a gap from draft year to being NHL ready, but the NCAA has become a really good gauge for talent. This is a guy we need to watch just for fun. Watch him, even though he goes to University of Michigan. Whatever. I'm going to love him through that. So this is a player who, by the way, loves Juuse Saros, loves his style of play, is about the same size. And we know that there is a goaltending staff here that knows how to develop good goaltenders. So it may not be as dire as it seems. Is $7.74 million a lot to pay for a goaltender that's not going to win a Stanley Cup? Maybe. But about 3 years from now, that's not going to be a super high price for a goaltender either. So I don't know. I just think I get the logic of it, but I think it's not as easy as it sounds. And if you are going to trade Juuse Saros, you better get value back. And the teams that are going to be calling about Saros may not have on their shelves what the Predators need to be buying. So it's tricky. Hey? Huh?
Okay.
Hey? Yeah, very interesting discussions, very interesting thoughts we're seeing about Juuse Saros, about the future of the Nashville Predators. What is going to be next for this team? Well, what's next for this team is going to be a couple games in Sweden. So, of course, later in the week, we're going to get you prepped for that. We're also going to keep talking through next steps. What can the Predators do to turn some things around? So we're gonna keep plowing through that, y'all. It's some tough times in Nashville. It is some tough times in Nashville. It feels a little bit turdy in Nashville right now. Sorry, moms. It just does.
Bring it home full circle. It feels very turdy right now.
It feels turdy.
Very turdy.
Yeah.
We could say we could be saying worse things, but it's very turdy.
It's very turdy these days. Yeah. So good times. Good times for all. Oh gosh. So Emma, while we wrap up this conversation about Juuse Saros, the Edmonton Oilers, speculation, reporting, trades, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.